The next session will be by Zamira Jaupaj. It's going to be about scaling threat detection and response in AWS. Zamira is a highly passionate IT professional with over 10 years of multinational experience. She is extremely good at designing and implementing critical and complex solutions in areas of containers, serverless, data analytics across small and large enterprises. Zamira is also the organizer for the AWS User Group in Albania and the co-organizer in Netherlands as well. So let's hear from Zamira on how to use the AWS governance controls to scale threat detection and response.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Floor is yours, Zamira.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Let me share also my screen. I hope you can see my screen now. Okay, and thank you so much for a presentation. I'm really happy to be here today, especially because I have been working with community so long time. I started with AWS community in Albania and now living in the Netherlands. Also, I'm working very close with the community here almost for 2 years now. So very excited to be here in part of this community. So I'm not going to do presentation myself as it was already done by my colleagues. So I'm going straight away to the session and what I'm going to share with you today. The session the topic that really I would love to share with you today is scaling threat detection and response in AWS. You know, security is really important for our customers, and it's really high priority at AWS. We call it also security is job zero. This because everything we build at AWS, we build in the way that infrastructure is secure, data protection is secure, and all the services that we build on top of that are secure. But this doesn't mean that the customers that have to build on top of that need to be secure. This is why we are here to help customers and guide them through the security best practices and how they can prevent all of these threat detections. And this is why I'm here today to share with you this session. So let's get started. Why threat detection is so important and why it's so hard in these days? There are a couple of reasons why we found it difficult to detect these threats, and all of this comes from my customers working for a long time, and we did a deep analysis on this and we realized that there are 3 things. So the first thing is large data sets. You know, we are using so many connections today. We are using devices.
Zamira, apologies for the interruption. It seems your voice is a little low. If you could probably speak up a little bit more.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Let me try to set up my audio. Can you hear me now much better?
Yes, I believe so. Yep, thank you.
Let me try to also put my microphone a little bit closer. Okay, I hope now it's much better, if you can confirm me. Okay. Then I will continue. So you know, we have so many data in these days, and we have so many connections around the world, and we have complex systems, and these big large data are being very complex to analyze. And with the analysis that we did, almost 80-90% of the data of these huge large data sets are sitting there but are never analyzed. And what this means is this because we don't know which data is important. We don't know what kind of data needs to be analyzed first. And we also called in today this dark data problem. The second reason is that actually we have so many data, and we try to put some mechanism in place to get alert from this kind of threading that we get from different resources. But we are getting so many notifications from different resources, and sometimes it's so hard to notify to prioritize which one is the high priority, which one is medium, low priority, and how we can categorize this and which one we have to prevent first. And it's so difficult this if you don't have mechanism in place, if you don't have systems and service in place that tell us that in thousands of notifications that we are getting, let's put the highest priority that makes sense for our workloads. And the third reason why threat detection is so hard is because of skill gaps. That means we don't have mechanism in place to make prevention of these alerts that we are getting all the time. And we don't have also the people that are sitting there and to make this change if something happened with our workloads, with our infrastructure that we are building on top of AWS. So remember always that there are three main reasons: huge, large data sets, so many notifications that we are getting in real time, and skill gaps mechanism that is missing in place to prevent and to make some action based on these notifications. All right, and at AWS, we thought that we can find some solution, and we can think how to prevent and how to put all of these mechanisms in place in the way that we can make it more secure your workloads, make secure infrastructure when you try to build something on top of AWS. So we identify a set of groups that how we can identify and how we can prevent this detection. We have deep of security tools at AWS. Of course, I'm not going in any one of them because otherwise I will take more than 30 minutes of session. However, I will try to share in this session today the most services that are related to threat detection. Identity access management is the first group of security that we organize at AWS. This means in this phase, you can define users, groups, policy, permission, who is going to access what and when and how. So we have to put the right permission across AWS accounts. We have to put the right permission across resources and cross applications as well. It's very important, especially when it comes to the production workloads, that we have the right resources and services to have the right permission under certain condition there. And we have, as you see here, a couple of tools: identity and access management, single sign-on, actually is a service, managed service in AWS that allows you, gives you a friendly unique link when you can access all AWS accounts, so you don't need to remember each account, which link, which URL it is. And also you can set up users and groups in centralized place, so you don't need, for example, to create IAM users in each AWS accounts in case you in case you have large workloads, or in case you have hundreds or probably thousands of accounts. It requires so many times and efforts and skills to manage all of these users. This is why single sign-on, it's much easy for the customers on how to manage all of these users. And also is AWS organization. When you put a landing zone on top of this, when you create a solution, when you put also the workload on top of this in AWS, you can create organization based on your needs and how many accounts are going, and put also the policy on top of that. And so many other services that are part of the first tool. The second one is detect control. This is when today I'm going to focus mostly. Detection controls are enable you to identify potential security threats. When something is happening with misconfiguration in AWS, when you build your workload and your infrastructure, you probably don't have right away or at the beginning the right skills, and you are doing some misconfiguration. It's important to enable some of these services, and automatically you will get all of this, let's say, finding security in real time and telling you all of this misconfiguration or different behavior that you have in your infrastructure at AWS. So we have also here a couple of services. I will explain in the slide later how all of them works and how they are well integrated together to protect threat detection. The third one is infrastructure protection. It's very important when you build the infrastructure at AWS, when you build your workload at AWS, you have to put boundary security. What this means that you have to put security to all layers in your workload, in your infrastructure. Let's say you have a three-tier infrastructure, for example, and you have to put security in backend, front end, and all the layers that are part of your infrastructure. You can put security in virtual meshing layer. You can put security on networking. So many kind of security boundaries that protect your infrastructure at all layers of security. And we have here so many services. Amazon Shield, for example, that is for DDoS protections. We have AWS WAF that protects the workload from internet to AWS, that you can protect the HP and HPS at layer 7. And you have also Amazon Virtual Private Cloud. That means that you have to do a segmentation of the workload when you try to put your database. For example, we recommend always customers to have in private subnet, and also backend, and to put in another segment, in another subnet that should be a private subnet, and so on and so on. And another group of security tools that we offer at AWS is data protections. It's quite important to protect your data when you try to build something on AWS. I've been working in my last 2 years with finance and health insurance companies, and it's quite important for them to protect the data because of the sensitive data that they have. And we offer here a couple of services that offer data protections in the way that can classify this kind of data and protect in different way, in different layers. We have a service that can be used for encryptions at AWS. We use encryption at the rest and encryption in transit, and so on. We have also the AWS Certification Manager, where you can create the SSL certification, and so many services that help you to protect your data when you build something on AWS. And the last one, but not less important, is incident response. This means, remember what I said, in previous slide, that because we have so many alerts, we have so many notifications from different resources, it's quite complex and difficult to make action in real time to all of them. And this is why we thought that AWS will offer a couple of services in the way that we can make action based on the threat, based on the security finding that we can get from different resources. So if we don't have, the people that can make these changes, we have, but AWS offers a couple of services that can put these changes, that can change this automatically if something happens in AWS. For example, we have here, let me start from the bottom, is the AWS Lambda function. You can integrate these services with some security service, and you can just put some line of the codes and change if something happened in your infrastructure. However, I have an example later. In this session, I will show you how the threat detection it works and how we can prevent it. All right. As I said in today's session, so I will focus mostly in threat detection. And these are, as you see in this slide, they are a set of services that helps you detect threat when something happens in your workload or some misconfiguration in your workload. And there are only some services here in this slide, but of course, there are more and more in AWS that you can enable it, and you can try to figure out and to set up, and in the way that you can prevent all of this security finding and all of these threats. So if I can start with this one, Amazon Inspector. Amazon Inspector actually is an automated security assessment in AWS when you can create a setup of rules based on these services and check for vulnerability in a virtual machine, EC2 instance, or even in your network side. So this means this service work in both sides, agentless and not agentless. In case you want to just install the agent in EC2 instance, you can check for vulnerability. You can check for misconfiguration of this on your some security finding that can find in your application. And from networking point of view, this service is able to detect and to check if the port of the security is open. For example, let's say you have a virtual machine with an SSH port 22 open, and when you enable Amazon Inspector, this service is available to evaluate your configuration and try to find, okay, I have a security finding, one of the security group have inbound rules that is not expected to be there. And so many rules that you can set up in Amazon Inspector. Amazon Guard Duty is another service that helps you to prevent threat detection. So actually, this is threat detection service that continuously monitor your workload, your infrastructure, and automatically collect all the security finding from at least 3 services. What this means? The first one is VPC flow logs, that you can enable it and you can get all the you can get all the information about your network from outside of the internet to AWS. This means if someone is trying to treat your infrastructure or your workload, all the action that are happening are going through the VPC flow log. So you can see everything that is going there. And what Amazon Guard Duty does in this case, it captures the security finding from VPC flow logs automatically and categorize this in a different priority. The second one that Amazon Guard Duty, detect is CloudTrail. So, CloudTrail is another service in AWS when you can track the history of API and all the actions that you are going to do at AWS. So whatever you are using AWS console, SDK, or CDK, if if you can, for example, change some configuration on your workload, all of this, and you are not expected to do that, Amazon Guard Duty can track and collect all the security finding from CloudTrail. And also the third one is it can collect from DNS query. So if something happening there as well at DNS level, you can get all the notification and all the security finding there. Another service that is important is Amazon Messy. Amazon Messy is a service that helps you to classify the data that you have, and it works very well with S3 bucket. It can identify PII data or sensitive data. Let's say you have an object storage in S3 and you have some sensitive data, you have some user data that you don't want to be there. You can just enable Amazon Messy, and then automatically this service protect you, because it's scanning all the time these objects that are in S3 bucket, and automatically it can find some security finding here. Another service that helps a lot in security finding, in threat detection, is Amazon AWS Config. So actually this service take action based on some rules that you have to set up. Let me give you an example. You want that in production, your S3 bucket have to be always private, and someone is going to do a misconfiguration or is making this public, this service public. What Amazon Config do is check for the change configuration of the resources all the time. And in this case, if the configuration of S3 bucket was changed, it puts this service as a non-compliance service. So you can see, based on your needs, you can set up rules, and then you can see which configuration, which service is compliant and which service is non-compliant. So I wanted just to share this as well, that at AWS, everything we build, all of these services that we build, we use compliance, so our compliance, but then doesn't mean that the configuration or everything you build on top of that is compliance. This is why we have all of these services to help you to make secure workloads in the future. And also, we have so many other services that can help you to threat detection and to find security finding. So now Security Hub, that is on top of this slide. Why is important this as well? I want to come back to the first slide that I was talking before. Is we have so many alerts, we have so many notifications, we don't know which one is true, which one is false, which one has the high priority. And this is why Security Hub comes in this place to collect all of this security finding and prioritize based on high priority level or medium or low. And you can, let's say you have 100 of notification in this moment, and security finding say, okay, 10 of them are high priority, you can just focus on this, and then the rest is medium and low notification. So it's a good place that give you on a dashboard when you can actually prioritize your notification. And sorry, and this service can be integrated also with third-party tool. It's not only with AWS, so you can get a security finding for CyberArk, Barracuda, and so many services that are third-party tools and are not part of AWS. Okay, and now I'm going to share with you a real example what is happening when the attacker try to attack your workload at AWS. So what are the phases that they do actually? The first phase is reconnaissance. During this stage, the attacker try to understand what public endpoints you have, what kind of ports open you have. Let's say someone is coming at your house and they want to steal your house. They're looking if the port is open, they're looking for the keys, they're looking for the window is open. It's the same situation. At this phase, they're trying to understand where can they find a way to get into your account. And in the second phase is establish foothold. During this phase, actually, they find it a way. Let's say they found it a public S3 bucket or and port SSH is open. And when they're inside, in this phase, they're trying to understand how they can go deeper. They're trying to investigate what kind of permissions, let's say if they're inside of this EC2 instance, what kind of permission has this instance, which with one service is integrated. Let's say this instance, for example, have an SSH password enable or have an IAM role policy access with other services, and they're trying to figure out here. And the third phase is they accelerate privilege. This means, let's say this EC2 instance has an IAM role that has some action, some permission to S3 bucket, and they're changing the permission of the role, putting star. This means they have permission everywhere. Then once they change this permission, they are trying to do the next phase is internal reconnaissance. In this phase, they are comfortable, they can do everything. They're trying actually to do what is the next phase, how they can go through all of these services, how can connect all of these services now. And the last phase is when they have everything under control. They can change your configuration, they can delete your data, they can do whatever they want in your AWS accounts. So you can see here is just there are some examples. For example, in the first phase, in a reconnaissance, they are doing RDP brute force. They're trying to send so many connections. And once they try, for example, if you have a password enabled in your EC2 instance, it's quite easy for attackers to enter your instance. And once they are inside, probably they're trying to install some third-party tools for vulnerability. If you don't have any kind of service like inspector that I explained it before, it's quite easy for attackers to install and to treat your workloads. And then probably they are trying to change the permissions on your EC2 instance. And once they change the permission, they have every kind of permission. They can do whatever they want in your AWS accounts, in your workloads. As I said before, they can delete and they can change your configuration if you don't have any security in place. So this is an actual example on how it works. And now I'm going to share with you, if we have this kind of simple architecture at AWS, we have just a web application server instance. We have a database that actually are traditional architecture at AWS. We have also an S3 bucket when you can put a static image or whatever static data makes sense there. And you can see here why the security is missing and how the attackers can enter and how they can enter in this AWS. Sorry, the first one that is missing is in this architecture is no web application protection. That means we don't have any service in place to protect our infrastructure from outside, from the internet to our private network at AWS. We don't have a WAF application. We don't have a firewall to protect layers to protect the HB and HBS protocols here. So it's quite important to have this layer security in place. The second one that is missing in this configuration, of course, is no segmentation. That's mean when you create the infrastructure, remember what I said, infrastructure protection is very, very important, and you need to put your boundary security in each layer. You have to put database in one subnet and also web in another subnet, application another subnet. So you have to segment all of them based on the security and put the security in place on each layer, security groups, ACL, and so on and so on. The third point that is missing here is one AWS account. I always suggest to my customers to have a separate workloads in different AWS accounts, in the way that the different group of people have a different permission. Let's say operation team can have permission only production, and you have dev, UAT, you have security account when you can, only security team can have permission. You have centralized login account when you collect all the data around there. So it's very important to have account for purpose. And this is why, because otherwise, if the attacker is going inside of your account and you have everything in one account, it's quite easy for the attackers to threat your infrastructure. The fourth one is all permission granted. This means that in this case, from web application, we have a full access permission to S3 bucket. That means once the attacker are inside, they can change your permission. They can delete whatever they want in S3 bucket. And the fifth is sensitive data are not encrypted. Remember, we have encryption at AWS that you can encrypt your data. And especially when it comes to the sensitive data, we have KMS as a service at AWS that you can use these encryptions. And no login and monitoring. It's important to enable logging at AWS in the way that you can collect all of this information, what is going on in your application and in your infrastructure level. So what is going on in the first, let's say in the first place, if there is no protection between internet and our virtual private gateway, some bad people are sitting around there and they can access your application. They can go very, very easily to enter in your EC2 instance, and then they can go, if there is no segmentation, they can delete your database. And if database is deleted, your website is going down. And this is very, very hard then to prevent this kind of data. And then they are able also to delete some data from S3 because they have full access. They can change permission on the data backup. And the last one, they can download the data. So you can see what kind of actions the attacker are able to do if you don't have security in place. And actually, this is the last slide for my session today is, so what's happening, as you see, step by step, I explain it, I chart only a simple architecture, but you can imagine also in complex architecture, it's quite difficult sometimes to not put, let's say, misconfiguration. This is why AWS help you try to guide you through the security best practices and to put some security in place in all layers at AWS. So you can see here what happened actually is in the first phase, when the attackers are able to enter in your AWS accounts, and they can do so many actions. So I have an example here when they actually can do, For example, SSH brute force attacks. Let's say you set up an EC2 instance, and when you set up an EC2 instance, you forget to disable a password. And you created just a password that you can remember. You know, we are human in general, and we sometimes put a short password that we can remember quite easily. And for attackers, they can just do force brute, and they can find very, very quickly your password. Once they found your password, they're able to enter in your EC2 instance. And once they are in your EC2 instance, they can go through different services that are integrated with these services. So how we can prevent and how we can detect all of these threat detection that are happening in your infrastructure is quite easy. So when I shared before, it's good to track the network information that is happening from internet to AWS, to your virtual, every kind of request that are coming from outside, you can collect it using Amazon VPC flow logs. You can just enable it in your VPC, and you can see what is going on there. For example, the attackers are sending you thousands of requests in 1 second, and you can see that there is an IP address there that is coming from this attacker. And you can see, and this is tracked, let's say, this is collected in VPC flow logs. And then from the VPC flow logs, Amazon Guard Duty is able to see this IP address that is coming so quickly and so fast. And in just 1 second, you can see one IP address that is not in your wish list, is not in your whitelist, and you can see, okay, this is in a thread. You can send immediately a notification to Amazon CloudWatch events that actually, when this happens, when a security finding, when Guard Duty find a security and something is happening here, send a notification here, and then you can send this notification in SNS Topic. Is another service at AWS that you can just send notification then via email, in case you want security to receive all of these emails via email, or you can use Lambda function in this case, and Lambda function actually get this notification and can change automatically the configuration, can block this IP address. For example, I have an IP 1.1.1.1 that is not expected to be there, and I'm setting a Lambda function. All right, I have a new IP that is not needed to be there. Please block this IP address. What does Lambda function in this case? Is going to EC2 instance and is changing the rule of security groups in inbound and is blocking this IP address. So you have make action in this case in real time. But of course, if you want to put someone and you have a person that can do this, also this in this case, just security team can receive an email and then they can change based on this action. The DNS logs works at the same way. So actually, you can find some security finding on a DNS level or DNS query. If something happening at this layer, they are going through the Guard Duty, and the rest is the workload is the same. So let's say the attackers here are trying to change the configuration on S3 bucket once they are, let's say, in EC2 instance. That means they're trying to change, to remove encryption, or they're trying to put this bucket or the object that are public, or whatever change they are doing. All of this information actually are collected in Amazon CloudTrail. And from Amazon CloudTrail, you can have actually here, you can collect all of this information through Amazon Guard Duty. So that's mean some security finding can be here, and this kind of configuration are not expected to be there. Or you can use also Amazon Config. I explained it before, to share if this service became non-compliant, and you can get also notification from AWS Config. And also from other side, if you have some sensitive data here and the attackers are trying to download this data, Amazon Messi is able to detect because it's scanning all the time, and it's scanning in a real time all of this data, and if finding something, send notification automatically to CloudWatch event rules. And you can also enable Amazon CloudWatch logs. What this means, in case, for example, you have an application in your virtual machine instance EC2, and you don't have enabled your logs, the attacker is going to change, for example, your configuration of the application is going to change the configuration of your database, or the configuration of, I don't know, Nginx or whatever services is installed in this EC2 instance. But if you have Amazon CloudWatch agent installed in this, you can collect all the information there, and you can see what is going on in this virtual meshing. So you can collect, and then based on this, Amazon Inspector is able to track these detections. And then, of course, Security Hub, as I said before, is a service that helps you to prioritize the notification. You can get so many notifications from different directions, and it's so hard to identify which one is the right one under some condition or is for production. You can create like a rule of groups, one for production, one for this application, and then you can make action based on this. And this is all, let's say, how it works and why it's so important to enable security when you try to build something on AWS. So this is all the session that I have wanted to share with you today. I hope you really learned something from this session. And when you're trying to build next time at AWS, I hope that this is built on a secure way. However, in case you need help, please contact me. I'm in Twitter. And also, if you had any use case or something, I work in AWS as a solution architect. I'm more than happy to help you in your workloads. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zamira. That was, in fact, quite a wonderful and detailed session. It was so detailed that people actually don't have any questions. It was quite self-explanatory. Wonderful. Just to put up a question there, if one were to maybe use third-party tools compared to using governance tools from AWS, is there any disadvantage or advantage that they can think of?
So when it comes to third-party tools, there are, of course, some pros and cons. So you have to manage these third-party tools, and you have to set up the configuration. And from other side, AWS offers you the possibility that most of these services, also all the services that I shared today, are managed service by AWS. So you don't need to think about operation side. You don't need to think about how you can manage these services. Everything is managed by AWS. What you have to think is just enable this service, just one click in 1 minute, and everything is done by AWS. So you don't need to, from operation point of view, you don't need to think anything about this. So this is quite easy, let's say, from your side, if you want to focus on your workload, in your application, in your business, and you don't need anymore to try to find the skills, people, and to set up, let's say, all of this, to maintain all of this security service.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Zamira. So once again, Zamira, thank you for that wonderful session. And we'll see you soon. And we love all the work that you're doing with the user groups, both in Netherlands as well as the other locations that you're at. Thank you, Zamira.
Thank you so much. I'm more than happy to be here today, and I'm waiting for you now to come in the Netherlands next time. Very, very excited to be here. It's the first time. I can't wait to be honestly in person, but definitely this is also a virtual world that we have some interaction differently. But let's hope the next time it will be in person, this event.
Absolutely. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Build. Go. Build. Build. Go. Build. Go build. There is no compression algorithm for experience. Def and test are the most important workloads. Dance like nobody's watching. 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 Encrypt like everyone is.